One of the coolest parts of the kidneys is actually going to be the glomerular apparatus itself. So inside the glomerular apparatus, we have the glomerular capillaries. Now, those glomerular capillaries are composed of two sets of filtration. The first one is going to be what we would call the filtration membrane. That's going to start actually with the capillaries themselves. Now, capillaries we know can have many different forms where the endothelium looks a little different. So in the kidneys, we're going to contain what we call the fenestrated capillaries. So the capillaries that are great at filtration because they have little holes. If you are smaller than the holes, then you can pass through those fenestrations. Now, the fenestrations are going to be so small, though, that they are going to keep things like entire cells, so entire red blood cells, white blood cells, and stuff like that, and keep it from being able to leave the capillaries, okay? Now, to stop smaller proteins, or to stop large proteins, which may actually still be small enough to pass through these fenestrations, our basement membrane of that layer of endothelium is actually going to contain molecules like proteoglycans and glycolipids that we can use to keep the larger proteins inside the lumen of the capillaries as well. So as that fluid pressure is pushing those proteins along, they might be able to fit through the fenestrations, but then they're just going to hit this layer of proteoglycans and just kind of bounce off, making sure that they have to stay within the lumen of the capillary and thus stay in the blood. Now, our next layer of protection is actually going to be the visceral layer of the glomerular capsule. This is where we get these super cool kind of alien looking cells called podocytes. So these podocytes, where pod means feet, they're going to have these little feet-like appendages reaching out around the glomerular capillaries, so kind of around the outside of them. But their feet are going to have these finger-like appendages on the outsides, and we're going to call these pedicels. Now, these pedicels are going to interlink with one another just like the fingers of your hand would. If you were, say, making like a little bridge to hold water or something like that, okay? So they're going to create these little tiny spaces in between them that we're going to call filtration slits. Now, these filtration slits are going to now stop even medium to small size proteins and make sure that, hey, if those happen to make it through that filtration membrane, they're still going to bounce off of these pedicels. And now the only things that are going to pass through these filtration slits are going to be things like water, sugars, amino acids, ions, urea, things that are very, very small, okay? So only things that are very small and water soluble are going to be able to pass through our 3 layers of protection. So remember, we're going to go through the endothelium, which blocks entire cells. We're next going to have the basement membrane, which is going to block our large proteins. And then we have the space or the filtration slits between the pedicels that are now going to block our small proteins. So now what we're going to find in our urine filtrate are going to be things like water, so the fluid, glucose, amino acids, so smaller even than proteins, the building blocks, ions, urea, things like water-soluble hormones, water-soluble vitamins, all of these kinds of things. Only very small amounts of very small proteins will be able to push their way through these 3 different filtration barriers.